محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. Highly respected, most honored, most distinguished, my respected teacher, Hazrat Allama Qari Muhammad Ashraf Qadri, Dawud Barakatuhu Al-Aliyah, also most respected guest of this evening, Hazrat Allama Qari Abid Hussain Chishti Sahab, Dawud Barakatuhu Al-Aliyah. We welcome them and we do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases them in health, wealth, piety and knowledge. Ameen. Firstly, I would like to, adding to that, the panel of the Ulama Ikram and Qurai Azam, Naat Mustafa, respected Father Haji Abdul Malik Sahab, elders, brothers, youngsters, Assalamu Alaikum. Firstly, I would like to thank each and every one of you to join us on in this evening. This gathering is associated with the Isal Swab Khatam Mahfil of my beloved grandfather, Haji Nur Ali. He was a very pious and very God-fearing person. He left this dunya about 30 years ago or so. We do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pardons his major minor sins. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stations him in the highest maqam in Jannah. And also with that, all of you are gathered here, all of your loved ones, your next of kin who have left this dunya, we do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likewise stations them in Jannat al-Firdaus. I was requested to talk about Hazrat Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi today. This is a very blessed month, the month of Safar, which is attributed to many men of God. The likes of Hazrat Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, the likes of Ala Hazrat Mujaddid Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Fazil Ibrahim rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, is also associated with the Urs part of Hazrat Data Sahab Ali Ajberi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. So it's a very blessed month, and we do dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that through the sadaqah of this blessed month, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the sadaqah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam shower his mercy upon us all. So without any further ado, Hazrat Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani, who was he? His full name was Shaykh Rabbani Ahmad, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, Al-Faruqi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. The reason why the title of Faruqi is suffixed to his name is because he is connected, his noble lineage, to be specific, he was the 28th great grandson of Hazrat Umar bin Al-Khattab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Hazrat Imam Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, he was born in the year 971 Hijri, and according to the Christian calendar, it was the year 1564. Other than being a very profound and prominent scholar of Islam, he was the master and teacher of 17 different Sufi tariqas, 17 different Sufi orders. Moreover, he was the originator of his own Sufi code called the Tariqa Mujaddidi. He was gifted, and his insight to Islamic jurisprudence as well as tasawwuf was remarkable, as he had the talent and the art to extrapolate sciences from within tasawwuf, and then which he could use in a means of to teach us how a man connects with his God, how a servant connects to his master, and how the worshipper he connects with the being who is being worshipped. And the question is that why is it that Imam Rabbani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, why is he so glorified? Why is it so glamorized that whenever we hear the name of Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, the eyes, the hearts, the mind, body and soul all fall down due to respect? Why is that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُؤْتِ الْحِكْمَةَ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَمَنْ يُؤْتَ الْحِكْمَةَ فَقَدْ أُوتِيَ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends to do good with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows, He gives that person wisdom. And then in his counterpart hadith, as in reported in Bukhari Sharif, in which Sarkar-e-do-Alam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi din. The one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends to do good with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the understanding and the comprehension of deen, the deen-e-mateen, Islam. And as I said, why is it that Imam Rabbani was so glorified? To understand this, I'm going to narrate another hadith reported in Sunan Abu Dawud, in which Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Inna Allah ba'atha hadhihi ummati ala ra'si kulli mi'ati sana man yujaddidu laha dinaha. Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, He will send at the turn of every century a Mujaddid, the one who is going to revive the religion of Islam and to restore it in its original form. Meaning that all of the deficiencies, discrepancies, and all of the innovations that creep in within Islam through time, the Mujaddid will come and he will eliminate all of these innovations and these deficiencies and restore Islam in its original form. So according to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he prophesies at the turn of every century, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a Mujaddid. History bears witness to the coming of the Mujaddideen with the likes, such as the likes of Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz, Imam Shafi, Imam Ghazali, Imam Fakhruddin Razi, Imam Sayyuti, Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, and so forth. Unquestionably, the crown of Mujaddid of the 9th century was given to Hazrat Imam Jalaluddin Sayyuti, Rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. And unquestionably, the crown of the 10th century was given to none other than Imam Ahmad Sirhindi Faruqi, who we call Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani. Because the 10th century, that marks the second millennium, meaning 1,000 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's where Imam Rabbani he came. Furthermore, Sarkar-e-do-Alam himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prophesied the coming of Ahmad Sirhindi Faruqi rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. As this hadith it has been reported in the books of Imam Sayyuti rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi in conjunction with the books of the Naqshbandiya Sufiya Tariqa. And in that, Sarkar-e-do-Alam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, Ba'asallahu rajulan ala ahada ashara mi'ata sana, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send a Mujaddid on the turn of the second millennium, after 1,000 years. Who would he be? Huwa Nurun Azimun, that he is going to be full of light. Ismuhu Ismi, his name will be like mine, because his name was Ahmad, and Nabi Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's name is also Ahmad. This hadith further demonstrates, and when we study this hadith further, it says that this person, Mujaddid, he will come in between when there are going to be two rulers, two mighty rulers. And that was the case with Ahmad Sirhindi, Shaykh Ahmad Sirhindi, as it was when he came, the two mighty rulers were Akbar Badshah, who was the Mughal emperor, and then the second one was his son, the Jahangir, the Mughal emperor. And now the question I ask again, that why is it, what work did Ahmad Sirhindi achieve that he is remembered even today? He came at the time of Akbar Akbar Badshah, at that time when India was ruled by the Mughal Empire, and by this Badshah, this king called Akbar. Akbar, in a snapshot, just to begin with, at the start, he was a good person. He was a good person, but through time, because he had money, authority, kingdom, power, and because he was being influenced by people, he made a manipulation. He changed the true spirit and the essence and the usul of Islam, and he distorted them. Put it simply, he was an innovator. For example, the question is, why did he do this? In order to create religious tolerance. Because at that time in India, predominantly there was Hindus, then there were Muslims, then Christians, and people from various different faiths. So he wanted to put them all under one umbrella, under one religion, which he called the Deen Ilahiyya, which is called the divine religion, or it could be attributed to the universal religion. Anyways, he put everyone under that umbrella. And then what he done, he put ban on the cow, slaughter of the cow, meaning no one was allowed to, slaughter the cow, because what he had seen is that when the Muslims, when they made a sacrifice, when they slaughtered the cow, you would see that the Hindus would get upset. Why? Because obviously you are aware that they worship the Hinduism, in that religion they worship the cow. They call it, Gai Mata. That's what they anyways, so he put a ban on this, so that because, to avoid that friction and that conflict that was going to occur because of this. And then he seen that the Muslims would go to the mosques, the Christians would go to the church, and likewise the Hindus, they would go to the temples. So what he did, he created another place of worship, he called it the Ibadat Khana, and then he said to everyone that everyone come here and you worship, your God, and practice your faith in that. And then moving further, he abolished the jizya, and this is the tax which a non-believer is expected to pay to the Muslim state if he was to live in there. He abolished that. And then moving on, he abolished the greeting of Islam. For example, Assalamu alaikum, this is the Muslim greeting. He seen the Muslims said Assalamu alaikum, the Hindus, they said Sasriya Kala, whatever, Namaste. And likewise, the Christians, their own greetings. And he's seen that people might get offended. So he said, from now on, no more of these greetings. Let's have a divine greeting called Allahu Akbar. When you see anyone, just say Allahu Akbar. So what he had done, the Assalamu alaikum, the teaching which Nabi Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given us, he had distorted it. And then he took it a step further. What did he do? He commanded everyone to do the sajda to ta'zim to him. The prostration of ta'zim, respect, which, as you know, is strongly prohibited and condemned in Islam. Having said that, with doing all of these practices, he also did some good practices. For example, if someone wanted to do Hajj and go to Makkah Sharif, for the pilgrimage, he would make the state fund his visit. Like that, he had some other good points as well. But regardless of the fact, the bottom line was that he was an innovator, and he crippled and destroyed the spirit and the ruh of Islam. Many people spoke up against this, and in response, either they were in prison, their wealth and their land was confiscated, or either they were put to death. And it was at this time when Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani, when he stood up and he spoke against this. And to my brothers and sisters, what you need to understand, at that time, to stand up against the Mughal Empire, to stand up against the system and the government is extremely difficult. In other words, it's like inviting death upon your own self. That's how it was. In response, he was in prison. And just to cut the story short, when Akbar passed away, and then when his son, when he took over, he sent a message to to Hazrat Imam Rabbani that I am making an intention to release you. And he said, I am only going to be released upon one condition. And that condition is that you restore Deen Muhammadi back in its original form. And other than that, you need to release all of these prisoners, because these were the prisoners who basically stood up against this movement. So this was his thing, his conditions. And what you have to understand here, Jahangir at that time, he had no option but to listen to him. And the reason for that, because at that time, Imam Rabbani, Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, he had gained a big following. He had a following belonging to the people in the prison. Outside prison, a common man followed him. The people with authority followed him. Why? Because he was a man of God. And because of that, Jahangir, he had no option but to release him. But then when Imam Rabbani was released, him and his children, they stuck with the royal family in order to restore the religion back in its original spirit, and also to teach their children, the true Islam in its purest form. And this was really important, because that was the royal family, that was a dominant, authoritative people, that then through them then Islam would spread in India, and India being the hub of the world at that time, Islam spread in India, outside of India, and that is why Islam reached us in its most purest and authentic form. This is why the status of Mujaddid Alf-E-Thani rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. Now the question I want to ask you all, is there a lesson for us to learn from this? Can we extrapolate a lesson from this? Of course there is a lesson. That lesson, my dear brothers and sisters, is that upon any ground we cannot compromise with the deen. We cannot compromise, we cannot do any negotiation, whether it is aqaid, aqidah, faraiz, wajibat, the sunnah, ibadat, riyazat and sahabat. We cannot make any compromise whatsoever. This is the message that Imam Rabbani rahmatullahi ta'ala has taught us. And in the day and age that we belong in, obviously I don't want to go in the topic deeply, but there is a lot of fitna, there is a lot of challenges against the Muslim Ummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, na'udhu billah, his honor and his dignity is being slandered. Islam at large is being slandered. Aqaid do jahan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his tahaffuz e namus-e risalat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is compromised. A matter of fact, we have reached such a point that even our children have been compromised. So, do we not have an obligation? Do we not have a loyalty to fulfill with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Indeed, we have. Qibla Hazrat Sahab, Hazrat Allama Majid Siddiqui, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. About 15 or 20 years ago, in a Urs Sharif gathering in Birmingham, they narrated a very beautiful story, a very deep emotional story of love, in which the idea was to demonstrate the loyalty and the obligation to fulfill an allegiance and the loyalty. And Qibla Hasab, they said, I'm going to narrate the story to you. They said that once there was a Hindu sadhu, right? A Hindu sadhu, it could be argued he is someone like a Sufi equivalent within the religion of Hinduism, like a Sufi saint in the religion of Hindu. So he was walking in a forest. He walked past the forest, and what he sees, what catches his eye, that he sees a tree and it's on fire. And the tree is blazing with fire. And then when he observes the tree a bit closer, what does he discover? He sees that there are birds and sparrows sitting upon the twigs and upon the branches. And they're getting burnt as well. They are not flying away. They're catching fire and they're getting burnt, and they're falling down one by one. And he takes a step back. This Hindu sadhu, he takes a step back and he's flabbergasted. And he questioned himself that the tree is on fire, but why are the birds flying away? So he addresses the birds, and he, in Hindi he describes this event. He says, Aag lagi ek birch ko, a birch you call a tree in English, in Hindi. He says, Aag lagi ek birch ko, जलने लगे सब पात, तुम क्यों जलते हो पंछियों जब पंख तुम्हारे पास. He says, oh birds, God has given you wings, fly away, why are you getting burnt? And in response, you know what the birds said? They said, फल खाया इस पेड़ का, फल खाया इस पेड़ का, और पीठ लपेटे पार, नर्क हमारा जीवना जो जले न इसके साथ, नर्क हमारा जीवना जो जले न इसके साथ. The birds replied, they said that this tree is our mother. We lived on this tree. This tree fed us, and now the requirement of it, wafa ka taqaza ye hai, that we go down with the tree. This is the message of loyalty and the obligation that we need to fulfill. So my dear brothers, I ask you a question, and that question is, do we not likewise have a loyalty and an obligation to fill with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yes, we have sinned. We have sinned in our darkest hour. But my dear brothers, once we do tawbah, rectify our actions, when we cleanse our mind, body and souls, not only can we be in a position to face all challenges, but we would also be given the power to change and manipulate the world. हम हैं दीवार खुद राह में अपनी, हम हैं दीवार खुद राह में अपनी, हम जो बदले तो ज़माने को बदल सकते हैं. We have a duty and an obligation to fulfill with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No questions asked. Why? Because it was him, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was him who asked for your forgiveness before even you were born. Before you were born, he asked for your forgiveness. It will be him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who will appear in your grave. No one else, Aka do Jahan, will. On the day of judgment, when everyone is going to be running away from you, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this event in the Holy Quran, يَوْمَ يَفِرُّ الْمَرْءُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ وَأُمِّهِ وَأَبِيهِ وَصَاحِبَتِهِ وَبَنِيهِ. On that day when your brother, your mother, your father, your son, your wife, all will put their hands up and be exempted from you. When they will say, we've got nothing to do with you. At that time in the Maidan Hashr, you will find Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam already in prostration asking for your forgiveness.
Nara Takbir, Nara Risalat, Nara Taqeed, Nara Hadri.
Once we need to rectify ourselves, then what? A poet says, "Khote sikke sare bazaar bhi chal jate hain." Just to conclude, I'm finished now. A poet, very beautifully in the Punjabi poetry, he says, "Jere kende si marange naal tere, aj unhane baariyan hariyan ne, jere tasde si deed nu dine raati, aj unhane bhi baariyan mariyan ne." जब तक पंछी ने फिजा विच वाल खोले उड़ गए पंछी मार उडारियां ने, मोहम्मद बूटिया छूटा है जग सारा, कमली वाली दी ससुराल जारियां ने।